Welcome back to the channel and the ZX9R project. So, I don't know if you've seen the last one, but where we're at now is the bike is fully stripped. I've got the frame on the floor over there. I'm waiting for a special tool to be able to get the swing arm off. In this one, we're going to look at the engine. I've already started removing some of the gubbins on here, so I've taken the thermostat from here, various hoses, which are collecting down there. Next steps are to take these houses off for the carbs, take the rocker cover off, and then take the head off. And from that we should be able to determine whether this engine is any good or not. So I'm quite looking forward to getting this off and having a look inside and seeing what the cams are like, what the valves are like, and also what the cylinders are like. So how are we looking? So this is the inlet side. Looks pretty tidy. A few marks on the cam lobes, but not mainly sort of coloured rather than sort of gouges or wear. So look on the exhaust side. Okay, so the exhaust side looks a bit different, the exhaust cams. There's a few marks on it, as you can see, on the lobes. It looks to be mainly sort of colour. From what I can see, looking up close, it doesn't... can't feel them grooves. But yeah, if anyone could shed any light on whether that's good or bad, that'd be greatly appreciated. It looks like this engine's fitted with a manual cam chain adjuster, which I think is a good thing, because doing a bit of homework online, the stock one can over tension the belt, and the way that this works is it pushes like a plastic guide that presses against the chain and creates that tension, and if you over tension it, it can create excessive wear as the chain's passing over it. So people used to swap them out for these where you can manually set it, and generally I think once this is set, it's not something you have to touch that often. So I'm hoping to just take it off without actually adjusting it and keep it set to what it is. All looking pretty clean. Next job, I think, is remove the head bolts in the opposite order to how they were tightened down. Stop it twisting. Alright, schoolboy error. You knew that was coming, didn't you? I need to get the chain guides out. I thought this would lift over them, but it looks like they go in from the top, so I need to take them out the top. But yeah, it's separated easy enough. Jesus, not to say that was easy. It wasn't. That bit was getting stuck just down here. Boom. Let's get the old head gasket off. So there we have it. Again, looks pretty clean. A little bit of carbon build up on the top of the pistons, but not much considering this thing's done 43,000 miles, is it? Just short of 43,000 miles. And like the coolant channels, the water channels, they look really clean and really tidy. I was expecting to sort of, I don't know why, but thought there might be like build up of like lime scale or something, but no, that's really clean. That came off pretty easy. So if I'm being totally honest, I don't really know what I'm looking for, but to the untrained eye, I think this looks really clean. You can see the pistons there, they're all the same, they're all very tidy. Free movement in them, no excessive amount of play. I probably don't need to change the rings, but I've got new rings anyway, but I think they look clean. If you know different, please leave a comment. It's part of what this is all about. It's about learning new skills. But yeah, let's have a look at the barrels. So again, the barrels look really clean. You can see they look pretty glazed. They're quite shiny, aren't they? So I'm glad I've taken this off, and I'll get this honed. And I'm looking to get a good hatch in there. And the lips as well. This lip here is nice and smooth. Sometimes you can get a bit of a lip that develops here, but no, that's nice and smooth. It all feels really clean. Remove the stator cover. My electric ratchet has gone flat, so I'm going to have to go old school for this. Right, next we'll get that water pump off. Yeah, look at that. I once had one of these block on the Rover 220 I had when I was on the motorway. Needless to say, that engine was knackered. I'll go look inside now, so I can see the gear selector there. This looks like some kind of oil rail, is it? I suspect. Pickup pipe just came out of there, and then you can see the big ends here. This is what I'm going to need to take out to be able to split the cases. All looks pretty clean though, other than the inside of the sub tray, which is very sludgy. Just had a thought, there was probably a torque order to those bolts and I should have undone them in the opposite way. Not to worry, I'll look that up. I think that's it for the underside, so onto the top side. Now there's a bunch of bolts that are marked with there's a number 12 on them, so I think that's all the ones split in the case. There's a couple that don't have a 12 on, which I don't think go all the way through, so let's just get them out. Get these last two nuts out now. That's two bolts. Bloody typical, camera wasn't recording then when I split the cases, but it came off easy enough. Breather pipe needed feeding out the back, that was caused a bit of a sticky issue pulling it out, but came out easy enough. And then I had to pull the crank out with this top of the crankcase because the pistons don't fit through there, they need to come out through the top. So the crank's there rather than leaving it on the bottom case. But there we have it, one gearbox, clutch assembly, crank, top case. What am I doing? I might be selling a load of ZX9R parts soon. I'm not sure this is ever going to go back together. All part of the fun. Right, one gearbox. Looks pretty tidy from what I can see. You know, all the teeth look good. Nothing missing from what I can tell. I knew I was going to regret not taking this off. But I'd got too far before I'd realised I should have done that. But I'm probably going to have to put that old oil seal back in and then I can change it at a later date. I don't know, when I've got this on the bench I'll try get this bracket off, but I think there's little to no chance of that happening. Sure, yeah, let's break this down I suppose. We'll see, there we go. Just looking at the shells on the big ends. Look a bit worn, don't they? Again, I don't 100% know what I'm actually looking for, but the sort of discoloration on them suggests to me they're a bit worn, so I might replace them. Alright, comrades. One, two, three, four. Alright, crank should just come away now. There we go. Okay, so very nearly there now. Just last few bits to take off. Need to take off the oil cooler, oil pressure sensor, I think that is. Still need to get the rest of the water pump out, and the oil pump is behind there. And then it's just all the gear gubbins. Right. So to remove the shaft driving the water pump and the oil pump, it's just this C-clip in here I need to get off. It's going to be a little bit awkward, I bet. Oh, you little fighter. There's the oil pump. That's dowel or whatever you call them. Was well and truly stuck in there, so note to self, use some copper grease when I put that back on. Just going to clean the gear selector shaft because I'm going to pull this shaft out through the other side of the case, and it's got to go through a couple of oil seals, so just to make that a little bit easier, just take any roughness off this. I've got some new O-rings, I think, in the gasket kit I got for replacing them. Okay, so I think the gear selector shaft all comes out in one. Yes, it does. There we go. So I think this is really cool. So there's a gear selector drum. As that rotates, it moves these forks around, which is what does the gear changing. So this wheel, each one of these grooves on here represents a gear, and then you've got a groove on the end of this notch here that is for neutral. So as you change gear, you've got this spring-loaded arm that locates in those grooves and holds the drum in its position. So that's a gear, that's another gear, so on and so forth. And then neutral, as we know, is between first and second in most cases. It certainly is in this, on this, which is just there. You can see there's a groove, separate groove at the top of that wheel. So you can see now how you quite easily miss neutral, because you're just going straight over the top like you would any other gear. I was expecting that to be a bit tighter than that. That came off pretty easy. So this bracket is what was holding this shaft in place. It was sat like so. One gear selector drum. Bearings feel, that bearing feels good. Nearly there, so oil pressure release valve, I think this is. Of oil lines, which I think are again just held in with O-rings. Next, oil pressure sensor. Right, I think this is the last thing to be removed, and it's the sensor stroke switch for the neutral light. So I think this is the switch for your neutral light, and the way that it works is it sits at the end of the drum like so, and then when this contact point falls into that groove there, I suspect that makes an earth, and then that's what triggers your neutral light. So there we have it, engine torn down. So I think I'm at the stage where I've pretty much removed everything. So every bolt's come out, everything's been broken apart. I'm going to leave the gears intact because they look really good, and the only other things left to take apart is take the gudgeon pins out of the pistons, because that'll make it a little bit easier to, when I'm rebuilding this engine, to install the con rods without the pistons on. But yeah, pretty much there. In terms of next steps, I'm going to clean up these engine parts, the crankcase, the head, the cylinders best I can. As you can see, I've had a bit of a go, and they've come up okay using sort of wire brush and carb cleaner and engine degreaser and stuff like that. You can see the head has come up really good, but I'm tempted, while I've got it stripped down to this level, to just go and get these vapor blasted and get them as clean as I can. Then I'm not sure what to do, so any advice you've got would be greatly received. So I'm not sure whether to paint these, just leave them as they are, to coat them in, to Cerakote them, get them powder coated, or use enamel. I'm not sure. Any advice you've got on that would be greatly received. Talking of advice, the other couple of things I could do with some advice on was the shells, in particular the big end shells. I'd like to know what you think of them. When I first saw them, I thought I'm definitely going to replace them, but I've since done a bit of homework, and I actually don't think they're that bad. So I'm probably going to reuse them. But if you know otherwise, if you think they're knackered, then please let me know, and I will get them swapped out. The cams, I wasn't sure about the cams as well when I first saw them, but I've since got a little bit of advice from the guy I used to remove one of the bolts that was snapped off inside the head. He was an engine builder, and he saw the cams, and he didn't think there was anything to worry about. I didn't think there was, because they're not scored, and the shape of the lobes is still good, so it's just like discoloration on them. But again, if you know otherwise, and if you've seen anything that I've missed when I've been stripping this down, and you think it's information I need to know, please leave a comment. It'll really help me out, and it'll obviously help other people out in the future if they're taking on a project like this. So yeah, that's it. It's like a big Meccano set, isn't it? I'm looking forward now to restoring and rebuilding. Right, till the next one. Bye.